Hey guys, I'm learning TFT. In this video, I'm going to share a coaching session with Aesah where we go into a game where I took forward thinking on 3-2 and went fast 9 on 4-2. And we're going to talk about general principles of going fast 9, how you want to approach the 4-2 roll down, as well as once you stabilize on level 9, how to decide between rolling down to finish off your 2 stars at level 9 versus pushing level 10. And part of that is being actively scouting as well as trying to predict the strength of your board relative to the rest of the lobby. So I'll give you a little bit of a teaser into this is the scenario that I was in where I had just lost one fight in stage 5 to a 3-star Smeech. But I was I think on a 3 or 4 streak prior to that point, and pretty strong relative to the rest of the lobby. Um, I do have 2 pairs here in Rumble and Rel, as well as the possibility of going for a 3-star Heimer. So that's a question I would pose for you: is whether you would sit here or whether you would roll. And it's a question that we go into pretty deeply in this video. I apologize for not producing videos in a while. I've after the recent tournaments have concluded, I've had a lot of real life stuff to catch up on. So for now, I am not putting together the meta mindset. That is something I do want to keep doing, and I might be able to put some kind of more core fundamental videos together before set 14 PBE. So with that said, I hope you enjoy this coaching session with Aesah. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Usually scout at 1-4.
I think ideally you should scout on 1-3 and 1-4 just
Uh,
because to give you like more time to take in everything.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, these units look good.
When you are scouting between 1-3 versus 1-4, like, are you looking for the same pieces of information, or are you trying to capture different like data?
Yeah, so basically on 1-3 you have a lot less information, but that's why I like to scout on both rounds because I think like you don't really have time on 1-4 to fully get information.
Mm.
Um I would say honestly like when I'm playing ladder, I'm probably like not this locked in. But in tournaments, ideally, like on 1-3, you want to see like what 3 cost people got dropped because a lot of people will hold like stuff like Swain or I mean it depends on the patch, but like Kog'Maw used to be like popular to hold. You can also look at like what components people have. Like sometimes you'll scout and like 4 people will just have a tier as their first component, and then
Mm.
you can already think like if you're debating between holding, I don't know, like a Vex pair or a Draven pair, you can be like, okay, well maybe I'll lean towards Draven.
Mm-hmm.
Or like if you have a 3 cost, right? Like if you're debating between holding like a Swain or an Ezreal, and you're like, okay, well 3 people, like 4 people have tiers, so I'll lean towards Ezreal.
Makes sense.
So you can see like, yeah, you can see what components people dropped and also what 3 costs they got dropped. Yeah.
Okay. Right there, I think I got like 6 gold. So I assume it would have been more optimal to make 10.
It's pretty close. Yeah, I think making 10 here is. Wait, actually,
Let's see what I had.
I think it's kind of hard to make 10 because you really want to hold Sentinel. Like you really want to hold Irelia and you want
Oh
Lux.
yeah.
So I think I would not make 10 here.
Okay.
I think if you could by selling just Darius, Violet, and Powder, I would. But like you really want Lux and Irelia.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Another thing I want to say about scouting early that I think I'm a lot of people will tend to put the units on their board that they're leaning towards playing. Like let's say someone has like just completely generic components, maybe like belt chain, and then they have like a Draven pair on bench and a Lux pair on board, or the other way around. Like it kind of indicates whether they're leaning like AD or AP player. Because like most people will put the units on their board that they like kind of want to play.
Okay. So if you need to scout like faster on 1-4, you'll just look at their what's on their board as opposed to what's on their bench.
Oh, I was saying like you can kind of use that as a combination to the other things I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
Because again, it varies by patch, but just like assuming these units are like equal
Hmm.
in value. It's like if someone has a Draven pair and Lux pair, they're like, and then like generic frontline, they're like kind of equally close to AD and AP, or if they have like Maddie or whatever. Like, yeah, again, just assume like they're equal in value. They're kind of like equally close to AD and AP, but whatever they put on their board is like they're more likely to lean towards playing that line.
Okay, makes sense. At what I rolled before blistering.
I actually think this is kind of
Oh,
common
canceling.
in yeah, I'm down with that. I think this is more common in patches where there's like some comps that are like reroll comps especially that are like really strong. I remember this was really common in like the family patch, like at the start of the set,
Hmm.
where if players like put family units on their board, they're kind of I don't know, like I don't think most people do it to signal. I think most people just like do it to like make their own lives easier. But it
Hmm.
kind of signals to the rest of the lobby that they're like thinking about playing family.
Right.
Whereas like if someone else has like, a Lux pair and an Irelia on the board and on their bench they have Draven pair, Violet pair, well they're probably not that interested in playing family, even though they have like a lot of the units for it.
Right. That makes sense. Okay. So here I scouted the lobby and especially with loot sub, I think I scouted and saw that it was an artifact anvil drop. I feel like if
And
it
I
wasn't artifact anvil and if I had a slammable item, I maybe could have taken called shot. But with the artifact, it seems like too high variance.
yeah, I think Call Shot, yeah, because you don't have like an amazing slammable item, I don't think it's that good. I think the Sagma is a little just not that good in general. Like it's okay
Like you need a
if you
full
have a really strong
streak,
board.
like stage two, basically, right, for that to pay off.
Honestly, I can see it with your board. Your upgrade frontline and upgrade backline, but you don't have a slammable item is a big
Yeah,
problem.
I have a
So you would
reforger,
probably
so
have
I
to
could luck into something, but it seems like
you
not
would
worth.
probably have to reforge sword and slam like whatever you hit, I guess.
Yeah,
The only really bad item you could hit, I think, would be Titans in that case. I think anything else would be like pretty reasonable.
yeah. Um,
I think that's pretty reasonable, but it's eh.
like table scrap seems safer than called shot here.
Yeah. You could also scout and like see how strong everyone else is as well. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I scouted and like the lobby wasn't that strong. The main concern I have is not slammable item, but then also artifact drop. So like if I end up in with a really shit artifact, then I'm completely screwed.
Yeah, I think it's fairly unlikely to not get like any tank or AP artifacts
Hmm.
out of four. Because like basically the only shit artifacts, like you have to get four AD artifacts. I would say probably roughly like a third of them are probably AD. So it'd be like one third time to the fourth, right? So it's like 1 out of 81 chance to like that's like a really rough estimate, but I think it's
And
like pretty hard to miss.
okay. And if I got like just a generic like animate visage or some tank full crusher or something, like that would be fine if I paired that with the vest and some reforge.
Oh, I think like Anima Visage is like a definitely a high roll. Hull
Oh, I
Crusher
see.
is definitely not bad at all.
Okay, so any of the tank ones
I
would
think
be good. Otherwise, like Mana Zane for backline, like DFG wouldn't be as good.
I think like DFG is not like I think Manzane's a lot better than DFG just because I don't think the artifacts I think I don't want to say this as like a claim, I guess. I don't think Riot has like the resources on their dev team to devote to like balancing artifacts very well.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously they could like expand, but that has other issues. I don't want to get too much into that conversation, but basically the artifacts are not balanced that well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like Manzane's a lot better than DFG, but I think DFG is completely fine. Like I think I would be like pretty happy if DFG was my best option, if I took Whole Shot. If not, I don't care as much. But yeah,
Okay.
just because like it gives like 50 AP or whatever, and you're just playing for early game streak. Yeah, I think Whole Shot is definitely like fairly reasonable. I like risky moves. I think it's really similar to Call Shot, where it's like it the drawback is not as bad if you full streak, and then the upside is guaranteed because the thing is like you're just no matter how strong your opener is, like you have a really strong opener, except this Edge Knight opener, but you have Reforger. Call shot is never guaranteed. Like you could have the best 2-1 board of all time and still lose on like 2-2. I've
Yeah.
seen it happen all the time.
And from this spot, given that I have a stronger board, I'm more likely to take risky moves. I guess the one
Oh,
reason
yeah,
I was thinking maybe I wouldn't take risky moves is because it's loot sub, and so then
yeah,
I would probably get more gold at some point. So then the gold is maybe less valuable than
yeah.
items.
Loose doesn't. It does give gold for sure. But it's actually not. It's not It's not like you're guaranteed to have a ton of gold. Actually, let me use bot commands and resources.
Mhm.
Basically, you have like a 1 out of 7 chance. There's basically like there's a few really low percent chance, like 1% tactician's crown, but for the most part, you have a 1 out of 7 chance for like each drop, and only two of them are gold. So you have a 2 out of 7 chance per stage. On average, you'll get like one of these per game. That's gold, so it's not like you're getting a ton of gold.
I see. Okay. Um, so you like risky moves more than table scraps here? Because table scraps is also kind of like gold, just not as much.
Fair. I honestly think either one is fine. I tend to think risky moves is just really good if you can like make it out healthy because
Mm,
you get the carousel priority, which I think is really important. Um, but it's just like the amount of value you get.
right.
Because like a silver augment like placebo on 2-1, placebo is considered kind of a pretty weak augment, but just like the gold difference is very big.
The other reason, maybe, and I don't think I was actually thinking about this at the time, argument for table scraps is because it's an even number of component opener, then getting two components could, if I high roll, give me two slammable items, whereas everyone
Oh yeah,
else will
that's
have
true.
one.
Yeah, that's pretty reasonable for stage 2. I didn't think about that, but I think that's pretty. I think that's like actually like a pretty big factor
Okay,
because you're basically up a full item on 2-5 potentially
right.
than you would be otherwise.
Um, None of these seem great. I think I scouted and I believe someone else already called Nocturne.
Okay.
So then I feel like it's. I mean, I guess I have trench coat with Edge of Night, but not a great holder right now. Although I guess if I got the Violet, I could just go family reroll. I didn't even think about
Yeah.
that. Or I could tempo it into Mbessa. Like also just tricksters, or I could reforge sword and go make moguls on Aurelia.
Yeah. I kind of like the Reforged Sword Moguls. I think this item, as long as you're not fighting someone who's full open, will give you at least 1 gold around, sometimes two. So on average, I think it'll give you around like 7 to 8 gold on stage 2, which I
Mm-hmm.
just think is like pretty valuable.
Okay.
The main thing is that I don't think like any of your options are amazing. If you had
Yeah.
like obviously like we talked about like Mana Zane, I would take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Agreed.
By the way, I have a hard stop at 4. I know we spent like 20 minutes on stage 1, but
Okay. Uh, try to. I'll try to jump ahead to like more interesting decision points.
well, yeah,
Um,
I think like stage 1 stuff is like especially the scouting on stage 1. I think that's like a really good question because I think it's like it's very relevant, but it's not something like people really ever talk about.
yeah.
Quick striker fishbones there. Yeah, I think like you said, if someone wasn't already quick striker, I think going fishbones, and even though you don't have the board for it right now, going fishbones and playing towards like nocturne primary is very reasonable.
Yeah. The scouting, I thought like I leveled so that I could get Lux shielding makes Aurelia last longer, and then try preserve streak.
Yeah,
Just
if you think it's the difference in like 2 matchups, I think leveling is really good. I think if it's a difference in 1 out of 5, I tend to not level.
I see. Okay.
But if you also like, obviously like you're never gonna be, well, I shouldn't say never, but it's gonna be very rare that you're gonna be like very confident that 1 extra Lux is gonna make the difference.
Mhm.
So yeah, I feel like you should think like it's gonna make a difference in about probably 2 matchups if you level, I think. Otherwise it's like not really worth it for the 1 out of 5. Because you're losing an extra 4 gold compared to leveling on just going 5 on 2-5. And 4 gold is just, or sorry, like you're paying 4 gold until you go 6 at like 3-2. Normally, I say you go 6 here, obviously, but normally like 3-1 or 3-2. But that's just like zero point 0.4 gold per round of interest.
Okay, so you disagree with this play if it, well, I guess there's fewer opponents now, so the
Yeah, so
likelihood.
here there's 4 opponents. I would probably only level if you're like, yeah, I would probably level if you think it's like 2 out of 4. If it's only 1 out of 4, I don't think I would go 6 here because
I
here
see.
you're paying 20 gold, right? Yeah, you're paying 20, so you're paying basically 2 gold a round until you hit 50. And winning this round gives you 2 gold. But the thing is, like your board's pretty good. Let's say you beat 3 people anyway, it makes a difference in 1 matchup. So the 1 out of 4 times you get 2 extra gold this round, and then streaking into neutrals is worth 5. Um, but you're losing 2 gold per round of interest 100% of the time. So you'll probably lose 2 this round on 2-5-2-6. Uh, Probably like another few rounds on stage 3.
Hmm.
So you're probably losing like 8 gold guaranteed for like a 1 in 4 chance to like gain like 8 gold, kind of.
So the other argument is that it maybe generated me one more gold each in those rounds, possibly.
With moguls.
Yeah,
Maybe. It's possible, yeah.
but yeah, that's still not as much, and it didn't make fight diff. So
Yeah, that's the other thing. I didn't even like mention that, but obviously, like, there's exactly what happened, which is the risk of like you leveling and not streaking.
yeah, okay,
But it's basically just like it's a guaranteed 8 gold loss for like a chance of like maybe like making a little bit more than that. Like if it ends up being fight diff, it's definitely worth it. But I think that will only happen um even if you're a pretty good fight judger, like one of the best in the world, it'll probably only make the diff due to matchmaking like 1 in 4 times, maybe like 1 in 3 times.
okay. How do you feel about the JG slam?
Yeah, I think it's fine. You already have Spark, so you already know like you're building towards AP. Sword is half Shojin. You need a mana item at some point.
Yeah.
So yeah, JG makes perfect sense to me.
Okay. So probably not Starry Night. I don't really like left or right. Uh, I well, if I didn't have tank items slammed, like scrap could be okay with table scraps and like either left or right. But given that I have a bunch of tank items and JG, it's like I think
Yeah,
my most obvious line to just lean towards is it's well, I guess I could go Sork, I could go Academy, like Heimer, I could go like Tempo Visionary. Those three seem like
yeah,
the
we
most
haven't talked
obvious.
about that much, but I think those are definitely yeah, I agree with that.
Or Rebel, but I feel like Rebel's less consistent unless you high
Yeah,
roll.
I think like Dominator is an option, but obviously like JG is not as good in that comp.
Yeah,
Um,
and I have no tiers.
yeah,
I have no tiers for Heimer
yeah,
either. So I guess if I wanted to
yeah.
guarantee a lot more tiers, I could go Pandora's.
I think Pandora's is pretty reasonable here, just because like first of all, you already have a chain that's not that much value. You could move Spark on like a secondary tank, and then like chain on your main tank. But
Hmm.
the main thing I'm concerned about is like you're gonna get more chains and cloaks from this point on, and all of those are gonna be like pretty low value.
Right.
Um,
You're
Also,
referring to
like
table scraps will usually leave leftover tank components.
yeah. Well, I just mean in general, honestly, but especially with table scraps. But I think like Pandora's is like pretty reasonable. Also, it's just like guarantee mana item as well, because mana item is just so important.
Okay. Okay, so
I know
especially
like
because
Pandora.
I'm like third in the lobby, so I'm getting lower
Yeah,
priority. Okay.
yeah.
I
Pandora's
mean,
is like normally considered pretty weak on stage three, but I think in this spot where like you already have a full build tank, it is like pretty high value, and you need mana item too. I think this is something that like Jisoap talks a lot about, where uh I think a lot of players tend to. I mean, especially back when augment stats were out, players would tend to pick like the greediest, like high value option.
mhm,
But he would just say, okay, like what do I need? And I'm looking at your spot. It's like, well, you need a mana item.
yeah. And I want to decrease the downside of getting a bunch of tank items. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Forward thinking, I think, is like pretty reasonable. I think this augment is just like really strong ever since they buffed it. As long as like you can stabilize on your board, which you can. Like,
So then game plan here is if I can get a Shojin and
yeah,
I could possibly then go Rebel now if I could high roll a Jinx and um, with the extra gold that seems viable. I could go Academy. Um,
yeah. I think from this spot, it's pretty likely you can just skip level 8 entirely.
mhm.
So I think playing, you could even play towards Sork for like LeBlanc. Obviously, like, yeah, I think there's like a few options. Either way, I think you want to play towards something where you can benefit from like level 9 shops, which I guess like all those comps can. You can even go like Malzahar.
Right. So with this Heimer, I forgot what the Academy. I want to say the Academy item was decent. Might have been Archangel,
Yeah.
which I think is why I probably just put it into the planner. And
Okay.
with this Heimer, why does it keep stopping?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Would you just sell the Garen here, or would you have played the Garen?
I'm
If I,
definitely willing to make 10 because like the like 0 to 10 is like a
yeah,
bigger difference.
I guess I
Um
got the gold from the moguls anyway.
yeah. But I think I'm willing to sell. I think I'm willing to sell Garen, yeah.
Okay. And
Because
just
like you're not
make
gonna. You're basically holding this for like 5 rounds before you're gonna play it, which is just like a little too much.
yeah, but yeah. This extra tank components kind of sucks. Would you solo frontline the Aurelia?
Um, no, probably not.
Does she
Because
die
like
too
from
fast?
this stage in the game, you're not really expecting to like win rounds. If you were like expecting to win every round, I would just to make sure
I
you're getting
see.
as much moguls. Because like sometimes, like if you beat someone right, like she might not even get attacked at all if they're left side.
Hmm.
But I think in this case, like splitting damage is pretty reasonable.
Okay. And I assume Shojin Slam you're okay with, given that
Yeah, I
item
think
gets.
Shojin is clearly open sword. Like that's stuff like the item you're clearly looking for with sword.
Okay. All right. So itemization here. I want to have a secondary AD carry in either Ezreal or um, Jace later.
Yeah, so the
So
way I'm looking at this, I think like red buff like has to be slammed for sure. I think that's kind of like
red buff
non-negotiable.
over
Not,
Sunfire because
yeah, I
we
think
have
that's kind of like
so many
non-negotiable.
tank items.
Yeah, I would definitely consider reforging moguls. Because like you
Oh
can kind
yeah.
of use AD and AP potentially. Um,
I don't know why I didn't see that. That's a good call.
I think
Um,
you could just go like Warmog's Bramble as like It's not like amazing. You could also reforge. You could go even shroud as well. But the main reason I think like item economy wise, you're right that like Sunfire is like kind of better for your item economy. But I think like in stage 4, Sunfire is just like falling off too much. A lot of the value is like it's definitely good if you can't get anti-heal otherwise. But because you have like red buff available, I think like red buff is just like way too good later on.
I see. In Academy, you would want red buff on who?
Um, so you have your full Heimer items. So right now you could just put on Ezreal. If you have Corki 2, you can put on him. If you have Jace, you can put on
I
Jace.
see. Okay. In my head, it was item economy wise, I would want to reforge a vest and then see if I could get like Runons and another offensive bow item.
Yeah, I think it's kind of reasonable because like you have too many like tank items, but I think like Warmogs is just really good, and it's mainly that like red buff is too much better than Sunfire. I think.
I see. How do you come to that conclusion? Are you using the stats or
I would say, honestly, this is something that's. I would say this topic, especially like red buff versus Sunfire. I mean, back in the day, it was Morello versus Sunfire. Red buff didn't exist until honestly, it's been around for a while. I think it came in set 10, so it's been around for almost a year. Wow, but I mean, I've been playing TFT for like 3 years, and I think it's just like just from like watching fights and just like kind of the I'm not sure like the going conventional wisdom. I'm not really sure. It's just like and just like reading the item too, right? Like, Sunfire only tags one unit every. Um, let me just double check the exact timing. I think it's like 2.5 seconds,
every two
but let
seconds?
me double check. Okay, yeah, it's 2 seconds. It's been changed throughout the sets, but yes, every 2 seconds. So basically, late game fights are pretty fast. So like, it's gonna take 6 seconds in to hit like 3 frontliners, but like late game, a lot of times you have units that are gonna potentially hit their backline and just like spread damage. They might have like backline carries that are healing. Like you mentioned, like there's a chance you play like Rebel, which Zoe and Jinx are both gonna have backline damage. Um, Jason Heimer, like they don't really hit backline that often, but it could happen. But basically, it's just Sunfire spreads a little too slowly once people have too many units.
I see. You know if red buff spreads if like you have Runons on Ezreal, does the second arrow also spread the red buff?
Not 100% sure. I would say I'm probably like 85% sure that the bolt does not spread red buff.
Okay.
Yeah, level here, you only lose 1 gold of interest, so I think like clear level up. Yeah, I think this is okay. I think I don't really like double runes that much. It's just because it's really good in. I wouldn't even say really good. It's like pretty good in academy. But you did mention like potentially like going towards. Like I feel like you're just not. I think another reason I like the red buff is you're just not that committed to playing AD at all. Like what if you just hit like Malzahar 2 on this round
Hmm.
or like LeBlanc 2? That's kind of what I'm thinking because like you're by making these two Runons on 4-1, I would say the main value of it is time management because you're gonna have a really long turn, so just like having less things to do is valuable. But I think like yeah, there's just a chance you end up in like Sixth Sorg or like Visionary or because you're probably about to go 9 and roll, and then there's a chance that you might end up in like a full AP comp. So it's just like by making these Runons, the time management is very real, but the HP it saves expected is probably like 2 HP tops.
Right. Okay.
So it's like you're kind of locking yourself out of like a lot of options because obviously you
Mhm.
don't want to be down two full items to save like 2 HP, kind of.
Right. Okay. And this also locks me kind of out of Jinx because Runons isn't that great in that comp
Yeah,
either.
I mean, yeah, because I think like you're about to go 9 and roll. I think so. There's a chance that yeah you hit like Jinx 2, LeBlanc 2, Malzahar 2. It's not super likely you hit like a 2-star of those, but it could happen.
Okay. Um, on the subject of the items being messed up, I could just salvage bin, but that probably
Yeah,
completely makes
I
this
don't
turn
think
way
I
too hard.
yeah, I think salvage ban is too difficult from like a just like a playability human perspective from this spot, in
Okay.
my opinion.
So then out of these, probably not Noble Sacrifice, since I already have way too many tank items. Like I just hopefully want some type of team combat.
Yeah, I think it's important to just go fast. I think noble sacrifice is fine. It kind of does like scale with your tank items also,
Mhm.
but I think
Okay.
like noble sacrifice, Mace Will is like 50. Mace Will is like 60, like compared to big grab bag, I guess, which is 3 components. I kind of think of Mace Will as like 1/3 of the value as a component, and 2/3 is like the team wide combat. And since you have JG, you can actually benefit from that.
Mhm.
Um, Lotus is not the best because you already have JG and Spark, but I think it's important to just pick something fast. I think any three of these are pretty reasonable. Yeah, I mean, because you have these Runons and you don't have Even Shroud, you get like AD crit and AD shred, so I think it's pretty good with Runons. But yeah, I would just level here. You're level 950. I think it's like way more efficient than trying to stabilize on 8 and then.
Okay. So I made that decision like more than 15 seconds. I should have done that in less than like 10 seconds, right?
Yeah, because you're about to roll 50 gold on like level 9. It's gonna be
Okay.
like really hard. So yeah, I think taking like any one of those three and having 15 more seconds, which could potentially translate into like 12 HP, is like pretty important.
Okay. And I don't know why I'm not still rolling here. I think I was just like trying to figure out what to even put on my board. Um,
Yeah. I think it's yeah, like kind of like reasonable to stop rolling early to figure out like to get your bearings straight. Because
yeah.
you also probably didn't know how much gold you would have at 9. I don't know
Yeah.
how much experience you have with this augment.
Not
Because
that
I know
much.
like the first time I was in this situation, I was like, do I have enough to go 9? Oh yes, I
Yeah.
do. Then I went 9. And um but yeah, that's kind of like what I was talking about, where it's like hypothetically you might just end up in like LeBlanc 2 or Malzahar 2 here, and then you don't want these Runons. But I think like yeah, going for this Academy line, of course, fine. Yeah, I didn't see that clearly, but I'm pretty sure if you had this board last turn, you would have won last round. So that's 14 more HP. You would have had
Mhm.
like 4 less gold because you made 4 gold of econ.
Yeah.
But like 4 less gold, like really, who cares? 14 HP is like so impactful.
Yeah. I assume 5 Academy is better than 4 Visionary here because I just picked up the
Um,
Jace.
Generally, you want to play Jace just because he's a really good unit. Oh, Infinity Edge is also not bad. A little less value with Lotus, but definitely still fine. I definitely want to get these items off of Ezreal. Like
Right.
Ezreal's the best user of Runons, but Ezreal 1 compared to like Jace or Corki. I mean Corki especially you want 3 items on.
Right. So one of the Runons goes onto Corki, one onto Jace.
Yeah.
How do we feel about
Yeah.
this?
I think this is I think this is reasonable enough. You're level 9, so your gold is actually more valuable just because you're
Right.
level 9 shops. So like rerolling your anomaly is it's kind of like it's kind of like more costly than it is to roll an 8. I think. I think that's just good enough.
Okay.
I remember early on, I used to think this was like really good, but apparently, a lot of the top players think it's like not
Really,
great.
yeah.
I think I would still take it here though.
I should definitely move items.
Yeah, you want 3 item core. Yeah, you just definitely want like 3 items together for sure. Yeah, selling Aurelia, I think definitely fine. Yeah.
Would you move the IE guard breaker to Jace? Or move one rune on Corki and one to Jace? Given that I have one remover. Oh, I guess I'm about to have two removers, but if I didn't have two removers.
Yeah. I watched in regionals, Dishsoap was in a spot kind of like it wasn't like exactly like this, and he just sold Corki.
Uh
But I think either way, Jace is your best unit, so I think he should have 3 items.
mhm.
I think like waiting 1 round for PvE because like you said, you're only gonna have two removers, which is not that much. So I think like waiting for this round to fix your items. But either way, like at the end of this round, Jace for sure needs 3 items.
Okay.
And I think Shroud here is like clearly the best option. Nice. Yeah, blue is really good, and you can Shojin Jace. Yeah, that's why like kind of waiting is better. Because if you removered last round, then you would need a remover for Jace and a remover for Heimer. So like you wouldn't be able to do this if you removed it last round.
Right. Although I should have moved the IE guardbreaker to Jace.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely like kind of a trend I've noticed in a lot of your games is just like being a little bit too slow on like your transition rounds,
Yeah.
which so far in this game I think it's cost you 14 HP, but like some of these other fights were also like a little bit nerve wracking.
Yeah. So ideally
Yeah.
these items should be moved from Ezreal over to Corki.
Um. Yeah, I think Corki is a little bit better, even though the Ezreal kind of uses these items better, and you have 5 Academy. I think Corki is better. Is it kind of like Corki got a small buff in the B patch, so it's not like super clear to me, but yeah. Yeah, I think I probably would have just tried to level here. You're rolling for like exactly Rumble, which is pretty reasonable.
Wait,
I guess it
which
depends
gold
on
did
your
I have?
matchups.
At 40 gold? Oh, so you just try to hit 50 and then keep
You have to win
it's like 3 rounds?
two. You have to win 2 rounds to make it to stage 6. It
Okay.
just depends on your matchups.
I see.
I feel like it's pretty reasonable to expect to win 2 rounds, and then like if you lose one at any point, then you can roll. But it's just Rumble 2 is definitely good, but you don't really have items for him, so
Mhm.
you're sacrificing kind of like your potential stage 6 for this is kind of what I was talking about on stage 2, where it's like there's a chance that the Rumble 2 will be the diff between winning or losing a fight, which is 11 HP minimum. So that's like a pretty big diff. But what are the chances that exactly Rumble 2 makes a difference? I think it's just not that high because you don't have items.
Right.
Um, yeah, so you're just giving up like too much of your future in order to like try to hit this Rumble 2. Because you might
Just
even be able to like level next round for Victor, right? So it's like
right.
basically there's a chance it would have been the diff on 5-3, but I feel like there's a bigger chance that you lose 6-1 because you're down a Victor.
Hmm. Okay. That's a good point. Here is Victor stronger than Corky?
Your third Academy item is. I would try to drop Lux for sure,
Oh right, it was
depending on
the
what your third
declaw.
Academy
I
item.
think it was no, it was IE.
Yeah. Yeah. I would probably try to drop Lux. I think dropping Corki is also very reasonable, but Corki kind of is Academy because he's giving you an item on Ruffle.
Oh right, okay.
So I would drop Lux for sure.
Then
Even without scrap, I think Corki 2 no items is like probably fine. not doing like nothing. I mean, he's still giving me scrap shield as well, which is
Right.
like not quite worth an item, but something. Yeah, so it's like these last two fights. I guess like 5-3, like your board 5-3, like your board didn't change at all from rolling. 5-5, you did replace Lux with Victor. Would you have won if you didn't do that? It's not obvious. I think like I think like you probably would have, but I mean it's not obvious, but it's more just like what's the expected value that like
Mhm.
this it changed the fight here.
And I hit the rumble too. I still lost. So yeah, going
So
10 would have been way higher EV.
it's it's just yeah, it's just I think if you had Rumble items, that's a different story. But it's
So I can
just a
get rumble items soon.
yeah. Well, the thing is, you would just be 10 and rolling now, so you would be getting the Rumble 2 anyway, or like you would be maybe getting the Rumble 2 here anyway,
Right.
maybe. Like not obviously not guaranteed either way. It's just the chance that the Rumble 2 makes a diff. I think is too small. Because hypothetically, if you didn't roll at all, starting on 5-5,
Mhm.
um, before leveling, you'd probably be like you'd probably be like 90 gold here ish. Um, and assuming you won the fight with Lux instead of Victor, which I think you would have. Again, like this all like based on what happened, and it's more important to think about expected results. You would have
Mhm.
like 7 HP instead of 10, because you would have lost the fight you lost a little bit harder.
Mhm.
So you would have like 70 more gold. You wouldn't have the Rumble or the Victor, but you would have like 70 more HP. Yeah, or seven, yeah, 70 more gold and like three less HP.
Right. Okay. So yeah, basically, I think my takeaway for that is in stage 5, I really got to pay more attention to like, am I playing for a higher cap or I'm just trying to preserve placements? And I guess in this case, it's actually both, but in some
Yeah,
lobbies, depending on who I might face, it could be different.
it's a risk either way. Basically, like to me, the risk is a fight in stage 5 going to be a Rumble diff, or is a fight in stage 6 going to be a level 10 diff? And I think like the second is more likely.
Mhm. Okay. And then what would
And I
strongest?
mentioned like if you lose and you go down to 1 life, then I would just roll.
Right. Okay.
On the strongest level 10,
No, strongest board here with the extra Jace 2 from the loot sub.
yeah, I think it's definitely better than Corki for sure.
Mm.
I think moving items from Ezreal as well.
And both backline, or is the, because I think the crystal thing
I think
benefits from one frontline, one backline, or is that just not worth?
it's kind of interesting. So the crystal benefits from either one depending on which one casts. So I think like assuming you have one front line and one back line, whenever the back line casts, it gives attack speed,
Hmm.
and whenever the front line casts, it gives shield. So I actually don't think I don't think you get that much more, if at all, crystal value if you have like one of each than two of the same kind.
Okay. And from an item standpoint, we'd rather have the
Back
just
line, yeah,
backline. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. I also just think yeah, I think like just backline's better because you have four sentinel front line already, so you already have you kind of like already have your front line.
Yeah. I did not come to that conclusion. I didn't move the items over. Were you okay with the adaptive pick for Rumble?
Yeah, I mean that completely looks. I don't really see anything else here that's good at all.
Okay, so then the only other thing would have been to keep Jace backline, move items from Ezreal, and and take out Corki for Victor, especially if the items
Yeah,
are
I think
moved.
yeah,
Okay, I don't know if that would have been fight tiff though. Oh, I guess
it's
the
definitely
Smeech
not
was pretty
clear. I
low.
mean,
Smeech got pretty low.
yeah, it's not clear. Like if you kill his carries here, it's yeah.
Okay, so my high level takeaways. Um, Stage three, I think 3-2 picking. Well, I guess forward thinking seemed like it worked out okay, but the
I think
Pandora's
forward
would have
thinking
been.
is really
Mhm.
good. Um, yeah, I think like I would actually take forward thinking over Pandora's, but we are kind of talking about Pandora's before you had the option.
Right. Okay.
Because with
Uh,
your HP and your board, you're expected to make it to 4-2 pretty healthy, and then you go level 9 with 50 gold.
right.
I think like that just puts you in such a good position.
Okay. And then stage four, I should have reforged the moguls. Slamming the runons here was decreased my flexibility significantly on the roll down. So I
Yeah,
want
I
to
think
avoid that.
yeah,
Uh,
I think like playing around LeBlanc or like Malzahar here is like pretty reasonable. But once
right,
you have both these Runons, you kind of don't want to play like Six Vision or Six Work.
right. And then here I should have picked augment a lot faster. Um, and then let's say I didn't slam the double runons, if I hit this Malzahar, I should just be thinking playing six visionary then, right?
Yeah, you definitely could, right? Like you're one Malzahar, one Heimer, and you're level 9.
And
So I
then
think it's like first of all, it's a lot stronger right now by
yeah,
like a lot.
and I would have to
Um,
have red buff on. I would probably just move Shojin JG red buff on Malzahar.
yeah, like in this spot, like compared to the board you have now, like Six Visionary Malzahar carry would be like a lot stronger.
Right.
I guess you wouldn't have. I guess you would have red buff, right? So you would still have 3 items, yeah.
And then double tank on this six visionary board is actually not bad because you only have like very few tanks. And then you have a ton of healing, so it gets a lot more value.
Yeah, and on level 9, it's like pretty reasonable. You can find like Elise.
Right. Okay. If I
I also
found
think
Mhm.
I don't remember your exact roll down, but I did see maybe it might have been next round, but I did see like LeBlanc at some point, and that's like also a potential option.
Right. I think it was next
I think it was
round.
next round.
Yeah, so
But I
if
mean,
I
yeah,
did
I mean,
find the
yeah,
LeBlanc, I could then go into six orc emissary, six orc black rose, because I'm like missing so much of the low cost units. It would probably be more like emissary.
yeah. You had Zara and Lux not that long ago, but I think it's kind of like too hard to like kind of flex both lines. So I think like kind of committing to one or the other.
Right.
As like not like hard committing, but like definitely like mentally like leaning towards one or the other. So I think like also like uh so yeah, I think like just you see your first Malzahar and you're like okay,
Just
just like
commit.
forget Storks and just sell them. Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's pretty reasonable.
Okay.
And if you do hit LeBlanc too, you could just you could play like Black Rose with Malzahar and LeBlanc.
Hmm.
That used to be like a pretty common comp back in the day.
Okay. Any other anything else stand out to you on? I guess you had mentioned pattern of like my roll downs just being a little bit sloppy and going a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah, because
faster.
we've done like 5 or 6 like VOD reviews now, and I think in every single game you've lost like 15 HP from like just not like finishing this turn fast enough.
Okay.
I think like the main pattern I noticed from this game that we kind of talked about in like the stage 2 leveling, and also with like the rolling instead of going 10 is like the risk reward basically. I think you're making plays that like if they work out are like very worth it, but it seems like they would only work out to me like like 1 in 3 times or something like that. Like
Right.
leveling to 5 early or leveling to 6 early. Again, like if it works out, it's really worth it. But I mean, in this game, it was a perfect example where it didn't work out, where like you ended up losing us 2-6, and then you're basically down, about like I don't know exactly, about like 8-ish gold from if you didn't level.
Hmm. I'm increasing my variance and like probably decreasing my EV.
Yeah. Sometimes it's worth it if like the cost is not that big. Like for example, on 4-1, you leveled to play an extra unit, but it only costs you 1 gold of interest. So I think
Mhm.
like this is good because you're not really giving up anything.
Right.
But I think like when you're rolling for the 1 copy of Rumble and nothing else,
Mhm.
you did hit Victor there, but basically like not that much else. You're just giving up. You're giving up like there's risk either way, right? Like there's by not rolling, there's risk that this fight is a Rumble 2 diff and you lose one of your 2 remaining lives. But by rolling, there's a risk that you lose in stage 6 because you're not level 10.
Mhm.
Um, and I think like the chance that this next fight is going to be a Rumble 2 diff is just so low given your item situation. I think if you have like 3 damage item Rumble, it becomes a lot more reasonable.
I see. Okay. I think I also especially in stage 5 or later, I'm like so not confident in my ability to judge fights that I've in the past died so many times with just extra gold. So I think
That's very reasonable.
instinctively I just be like, okay, let me just not die with so much gold. But I think to get to the next level, I gotta be a little bit more nuanced.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, another thing is like because you have 2 lives, that's why I said you can wait until you have one. And I
Mm,
did notice this like maybe you kind of panic, right? Because there is a difference, but like you didn't roll on 5-1 or 5-2, right? Like you rolled here after you lost 1 round. And of course, you're
oh
more likely
yeah,
to roll because you're 2 lives instead of 3 lives, but it felt like, it kind of felt like you panicked, I guess. Anyway, I
yeah.
gotta go.
Okay, thanks for helping out.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk to you later.
See ya.